everyone, we're back. I am Morgan.
I'm Bill.
And this is Coffee,
Sweaters,
and Finance. We are back with new topics, new sweaters, same great coffee.
Yes.
So, Bill, this season I think we're going to talk a little bit about investments.
I like that idea.
Does that sound all right?
Yep. It's
Cool.
one of my favorite topics.
Yes. Why is that?
Because it's the most fascinating of all the fields I think that we deal with. The markets are fascinating, and there's just a lot of variables that make successful investing difficult.
Without fail, people come and they want to talk to us about investments.
Yep.
We're the ones that are kind of forcing other conversations, and they say, but what about my portfolio?
Yes.
So let's talk about portfolios and investments. Does that sound all right?
Yep, sounds great.
Awesome. So I thought for like the first topic, what would be interesting is we're always talking about like what makes you successful in investing, but what's the 5 things that do not matter to your long-term investment success? So we're going to flip this on its head a little bit.
Okay, sounds great. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about something that's on a lot of people's minds right now, and that would be the president.
Yes.
Not just President Trump, but really any president at any point in time. A lot of times, specifically with 2016, you had half the country, because that's the way we're divided politically, half the country was essentially afraid of a President Trump being elected. And there were a lot of people who made changes to their portfolio because of it. I was just talking to a client yesterday who, at the time, she made significant change to her portfolio because of it. It ended up hurting her. And if you go back, that's the way that Democrats feel. If you go back before, a lot of Republicans were afraid of Obama's impact on the economy and their portfolios.
Yeah.
But the reality is that it takes a long time for president's policies to impact the economy and as well as impact the portfolio. How the economy is doing at any one point in time is the result of the cumulative effect of many prior presidents' policies, as well as a lot of variables that aren't affected by the president.
Right.
What the global economy is doing, what how businesses are doing from a profit standpoint. There's a lot of things that the president can't affect that are significant drivers on your portfolio.
Yeah.
So to make a change to your portfolio based off of a recent political event, specifically the president, would is short-sighted.
It's not wise and it's not thinking long term.
Yep.
And I'd also add that all those other things that Bill pointed out, interest rates, global economics, global political events, are also not things you should worry about. But let's jump into number 2, and I'm gonna throw this one in there.
Okay.
It's kind of a corollary of don't worry about who's president, is your politics, right?
Yes.
So great to be politically engaged, great to be socially engaged. We want to support that. Not so great to mix politics and investing, right? That does not help people long term. And I think, the last 12 years, people feel like we're a little more politically divided than we have it in the past. We don't want to spend too much time on that. This isn't the purpose of these videos, but we've certainly heard both sides of the stories, and in both cases, it's never benefited anybody to change their investments to align with their political beliefs, whether they feel like things are good or bad based on who's in political power at the moment.
Here's a great example. You can see, if you just look at successful investors and great investors, there are highly successful investors that have been Democrats, and there are highly successful investors that have been Republican. There's no correlation between political beliefs and being a successful investor. Look at Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett is a Democrat. Charlie Munger, his right-hand man, is a Republican. That's an example of how essentially their political beliefs aren't impacting their investing. They're separating their political beliefs from their investment decision making.
Right. Two of the most successful investors in history aren't worried about this. We probably shouldn't be either.
Exactly.
So
with regard to your portfolio.
Yes. Right. So you want to hop in with the third one?
I'll let you kick it off.
Great. So number 3 thing that doesn't matter to your long-term investment success is the daily, weekly, monthly, annually, and even multi-year investment performance of your portfolio.
Yes.
Why doesn't this matter?
Because short term, markets are highly volatile. That's always been the case. If you just look back historically, if you look at what stocks have done historically, they've gone up over the long term.
Right.
But over the short term, they can do anything. They can be wildly unpredictable. In the short term, there's a lot of noise.
Right.
1 month's performance or 1 year's performance is not indicative of what a portfolio is going to do over the long term.
And that's where I'd say, if you're saving for retirement, one, in retirement, you might be saving for 30 plus years. But if you're in your 20s and 30s or even 40s, you still have 20 to 30 years plus to even get to retirement. So we're talking about a multi-decade investment horizon here. So even the performance of like 2 to 3 years, not statistically relevant. It doesn't really matter as long as we're sticking to a wise plan based on your financials, your financial plan and your goals. We want to focus on multi-decade time horizons.
There are going to be, if you're dealing with a 30-year time horizon, and you're invested in many asset classes, there are going to be periods of time over, definitely over weeks and months, but even over 3 and 5 year time periods where certain asset classes are going to do horribly. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be in that asset class. What we're concerned are what's going to happen with the portfolio over that true 30-year time period.
Yeah.
And you can't overreact by pulling out of an asset class just because it's done poorly over 3 years.
Exactly. Not statistically relevant.
Yep.
I'm gonna throw out a number 4.
Go for it.
And this is one that's close to my heart because it really bothers me when people focus on this.
Yep.
Number 4 is the interest rate on your savings account.
Yep.
Doesn't matter, right? So this is something that we see on FinTwit a lot of times. You see it in the media. Is this company's offering 1.9, this company's offering 1.85, this company's offering 1.7 on savings account. Most people that we come across have, let's say, anywhere between $4,000 and $20,000, $30,000 on the high side in their savings account, right? So we're talking about hundreds of dollars here.
Yep.
And when you really talk about financial planning or long-term investment planning, we want to be making decisions that are hundreds of thousands of dollars in decisions, right? So saving an extra $5,000, $6,000 into your 401k, 403b, IRA, Roth IRA. These are decisions, if you do that annually with a decent rate of return, these are decisions that are going to have a meaningful difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars come retirement.
Yep.
If we're talking about moving from a savings account that gets you 1.5 to 1.7, not a huge difference, right?
You can, if you want to go and hunt around online for the highest yielding savings account, fine. But let's not pretend that it's a material impact.
Yeah.
It's not going to have a material impact on your financial plan.
Right,
or your
right.
financial
Still a good thing to do,
Sure.
but probably not something we should spend the bulk of our time on. What we want to be spending time on is these big things that we can do, these big changes to your financial plan to have a meaningful difference.
Absolutely.
So, and then number 5, and this is a huge one. Bill, do we want to worry about what our friends' investments did last year?
No.
Why?
That's going to lead you astray.
Yeah.
Why? Well, first of all, they have different goals.
Yes. That's a great one.
They have a different financial situation. Maybe they can take a whole bunch more risk.
Yeah.
Maybe they're investing for a completely different purpose. Their whole situation is different. And the most important point of all, most people are really bad investors. They're making investment decisions on average that aren't necessarily going to be appropriate. That's just how humans are wired. On average, we're going to be bad
So do you want to mimic that?
Yeah, exactly. And a bad investor could have a really good year at any point in time. Going back to what we were saying earlier, what happens over a 1 year time period isn't indicative of what's going to happen or what's appropriate over a 30-year time period. And the opposite is true. You could be invested in the completely wrong asset allocation based off of your 30-year time period, but you could have 1 year that's really good.
Sure. I kind of think of the tech bubble.
Yep.
I think of the real estate bubble. People making a killing investing in properties or flipping properties or something like that. I think of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin recently and how that was. Some people might disagree with this, but something of a bubble the last few years.
Yep.
Your friend, your neighbor will tell you when they are doing well, right?
Yes.
So they will tell you how much money they made in tech stocks. They will tell you that they're making a killing in real estate or cryptocurrencies or something like that. And then you're going to go home and think, oh, should I change my investment plan? Should I call my manager?
Yep.
what they're not going to tell you is when everything blows up.
Exactly.
On the flip side. So that's not something we talk about.
You're
at the
only
table.
hearing half the story.
Exactly.
A good example is if I were to go to the casino, if I were to go, drain my entire bank account and portfolio, take all the cash I have and put it on black in a game of roulette at the casino, and I won, and I doubled my money.
Right.
Then I come to you and I brag about how I just doubled my money and doubled my net worth. Does that mean it's a good investment decision? No,
Right.
it was a terrible investment decision. It was a terrible financial decision. And does that mean that you should go do the same thing just because I doubled my net worth? No, absolutely not.
Right.
And the same thing can happen with investments.
Sure.
As well.
Sure. A bad process can lead to a good outcome
By luck.
by luck, but statistically speaking, we want to have good processes and set us up for the likelihood that we'll have a positive outcome.
Exactly. We want to control the things we can control,
Yeah.
and not worry about the things that we can't control.
Great. So those are the 5 things that do not matter to your investment success. And once again, they are the president. Don't worry about the president.
Yep.
Don't mix your politics with your investments. Don't worry about daily, weekly, monthly, or even 1-year returns. The interest rate on your savings account. Chase it if you want. Probably not relevant over the long term.
Yep.
And then don't worry about what your friends' investments did.
Yep.
So, all right, guys. Morgan and Bill here. Coffee, Sweaters, and Finance. We'll see you next time.
See ya.